Hey, what's up guys? I'm Steve Wells, and today we are going to be talking about one of my girlfriend's favorite shoes. I think she has 3 pairs right now, maybe 4 now. And that is the Saucony Kinvara. So this is the Saucony Kinvara 12, recently been updated from the Kinvara 11, and it is not completely different on paper. However, whenever you're actually wearing this shoe, it does feel fairly different than it has in previous versions. So this shoe has been kind of Saucony's primary fast day and racing shoe for a while, and that is until the release of the Endorphin Pro, which is their carbon fiber plate racing shoe. So this shoe is more dedicated towards kind of your faster runs, race day, that kind of thing. You can definitely wear it on longer runs if you'd like to. Has a good amount of cushion and that kind of thing for that, if you kind of prefer that kind of shoe on other runs, but that's not really what it's meant for. So I will have all the specs in the description on this shoe if you're interested in a little bit more technical stuff about it. But let's check out the weight in my size. This is an 11.5, looks like 8.7 ounces. So if we compare that to the previous version of the Kinvara, 8.4 in that one, and then if we compare it to the Endorphin Pro, 9.1. So a little bit heavier. The Pro is a little bit heavier than the Kinvara. It does have a little more cushion, I would say. Also that carbon fiber plate in there. Carbon fiber is light, but probably going to be adding a little bit of weight. So before we get into some pros and cons about this shoe, if you like what I'm doing on my channel, want to help support, head down to the description, check out the link to my Patreon down there. With that out of the way, let's get into some pros and cons about this shoe. First pro is the weight, like we just talked about. It is pretty lightweight, definitely feels like it on your foot, feels like you don't have a lot holding you down, feels like you want to go fast whenever you're wearing this shoe because of how light it is. Along with how light this shoe is, this foam, the Power Run foam, gives you a good responsive feel under your foot. I would say not as kind of a bouncy feel as the Power Run Plus material. However, for how light this is and how cheap it is, which we'll get into later, it's one of the better options for a kind of go fast shoe. If you look at the specs of both of these shoes compared to each other, the 12 and the 11, they actually have the exact same stack height as each other, so they have the same amount of foam in the midsole as each other. However, with the little bit softer feel in the Kinvara 12, it makes it feel like it has a little bit more cushion. The Kinvara 11 was a relatively dense cushioning, so it didn't have the kind of sponginess that you get out of the 12. And that softness, I feel like, makes this shoe a little bit more versatile. You can wear it for more kind of different workouts, not just your speed days and racing. And that kind of makes sense when it comes to kind of what Saucony is doing as a whole with their Endorphin line. They have the Pro, the Speed, the Shift, and they don't really need a racing shoe as much as they did before. But if you were looking for a racing shoe on a budget, or you want something different to go a little bit faster, or you just don't want to spend a ton of money on a shoe, this is a great option for you. My next pro is the upper material and kind of the design of the heel counter and tongue and all of that. I really like the material that this is made out of. It doesn't feel super thin like it does on some other lightweight shoes. So if you compare it to like the Pro, you can kind of see through this material. It's super thin, which is going to make it lighter weight, but isn't going to give you that like kind of substantial feel on your foot that you might be looking for. And this material, while keeping it lightweight, is a little bit kind of thicker than some other shoes in this category. I also like what they did with the heel counter here, so it is a little bit flared out like we've kind of been seeing in a lot of different shoes lately, the Clifton, the Pegasus, a lot of New Balance's shoes, but it's not kind of as exaggerated as some of those other models, and it works really well not to dig into your Achilles, but also doesn't kind of stick up and poke out and poke into the back of your leg like I was experiencing in the Clifton, for example. When it comes to the tongue here, it is a gusseted tongue, so it's connected all the way down the side of the shoe, and I feel like it's a good thickness to help keep the feel of the laces off of your foot, but thin enough that it's not super puffy and annoying, adding weight and that kind of thing. My girlfriend Katie did say that she felt like it was coming up a little bit high on her ankle, but I wasn't having that issue when I was wearing this shoe with this like cutout that they have here. I wasn't noticing that bothering me at all. I also really like the looks of this shoe, especially compared to previous versions. I feel like it's a little bit more refined, kind of adult of a look, but still keeps the kind of fun, bright colors that have been in this model in the past. And my last pro I've talked about a little bit already. At $110, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in this shoe. So let's get into some cons about this shoe. I've talked about the midsole in this shoe being a little bit squishier than it has been in the past, which makes it more versatile, makes it better for if you're wearing it for longer runs and that type of thing, but I feel like does retract maybe a little bit from that kind of speedy feel, that race ready shoe feel that you were getting in previous versions, because you're not getting as much kind of energy return and ground feel as you were in the past. My next con is not necessarily a con, not something I hate about this shoe, but it is something that again retracts a little bit from wearing it as kind of a race shoe, fast day shoe, and that is how flexible it is. So this one I feel like is a lot more flexible than previous versions, which if you're looking for that kind of responsiveness, that like snappiness as you're toeing off, something a little bit stiffer a lot of times works a little bit better. So while I don't hate how this shoe is a little bit more flexible than in the past, it might mess with the performance of the shoe a little bit. My last con is the outsole here. So while Saucony has done a good job with these rubber inlays, they don't rip out like they do in some shoes as far as I know. They are saving a lot of weight by not putting full rubber outsole on this shoe, but you're also not going to get the durability of a shoe with a full rubber outsole on it. Also, something you have to be careful about, especially in this shoe, not quite as much as previous versions I don't think, but if you're on wet surfaces, you need to be careful because these shoes can get slippery. So will I continue wearing the Saucony Kinvara 12? I think that I will. I actually really like this shoe. I didn't have a ton of cons there, and the cons that I did have, I was kind of reaching for. I was actually having kind of a hard time coming up with some cons about this shoe because I do like it so much. This shoe is great for someone that is looking for maybe a second shoe to mix into their rotation that they don't want to pay a ton of money for, that they can wear on their speed workout days or wear to race in primarily. It's also a great option if maybe even you're just getting into running, which a lot of people are right now, and you don't want to spend a ton of money on a new pair of shoes, but you definitely want something better than what you've been wearing. This would be a great option for that. You're not going to get the kind of miles out of this shoe like you would out of some others, probably more in the 200 to 300 mile range in this shoe, probably not going to get it up to like 500-600 miles like you can some other shoes. But with the value and the performance that you're going to get out of this shoe, I would say even outperforming some more expensive shoes in this category. this shoe is going to be a great option for a ton of people. So I don't think this was a super long one because my cons were like 2 things, but I hope this video has been helpful. If it was, be sure to like and subscribe down below. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments for me. Check out my Patreon while you're down there, and I will talk to you guys next week.